everyone, welcome once again to Gotham Discussions. I am Captain Logan, and with me is Steve Baxi.
Hello, everybody.
And, of course, DanzNewz.
Hi! I'm actually joined with Spencer back there, too. He's working.
Hi, Spencer. Good to have you only sort of in the background of the program. So, today we're going to talk about the third episode of Gotham, The Balloonman, and before we get there, first of all, Dan, nice to see you live this time.
Yes. No, this is actually a elaborate pre-recorded video message system that's going on right now.
It's pretty
I mastered
amazing.
this technology.
Yeah, what he did was he pre-recorded things for every possible contingency, including my saying every possible contingency.
Yes, correct.
Before we talk about today's episode, let's look at a couple of comments from last time, shall we? And the first one comes from DanzNewz, who says that he's taking all the credit for us being more positive about that episode during the discussion. Steve, do you agree with that? Do you think that we were more positive because we started with Dan's comments and he wasn't there to defend himself or anything, and we just were like, oh yeah, no, you might be onto something. Did that happen?
Yeah, I think it did. Because like I said at the end of that video, I was ready to rip apart into that episode because I really didn't like it. And then we started thinking about it, and Dan started being funny and interesting. And suddenly I liked the episode.
I don't know how we got an hour.
Not happening too often, but...
I don't know how we got an hour out of that episode, because when I saw it the first time, I was just like, this is so depressing. And then I started thinking about it, and I don't know. Yeah, it was quite good. Yay. So, let's see what folks are saying about last episode. A lot of people still saying it's getting better. They're liking it, but they wish it was Gotham Central. I'm seeing a lot of that. Nathan Hickman is one. I'm seeing a lot of that. Let's see what else. Jacob Hendricks, I don't really mind the actor who plays Batman. I'm sort of annoyed, however, at the progression of him so far. He consistently says he's testing himself, but no one's asking him why, and what is he testing himself for? Once he puts on the cape and cowl, it'd be pretty obvious who Batman at least to Gordon, and maybe Catwoman, who knows later on once she meets Bruce. That's my main problem. I suppose I can sort of see that, although I think... I think last episode we're not getting a sense so much that I mean, we are, that he's training, but I think with everybody else around him, it's kind of more he's reacting to his parents' death in a really hard and weird kind of way, right? Like, do you think they're picking up on, or they should be picking up on, the training idea?
I think the training just comes because we're all watching a Batman show, so we assume that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
But I think it's really easy to read it as this kid just has a really bad psychosis, and no one's ready to admit it fully yet. Because Alfred has those instructions not to call in a doctor to have Bruce speak to, just trust the boy and let him do what he wants to do, or let him figure things out. When we saw that weirdly disturbing picture at the end of last episode, I don't see it too much as him being Batman too fast, as much as he's a little bit unsettled and a little bit unwound.
Yeah, until you get to today's episode, and we'll talk about that, because I do think that they are very quickly pushing the momentum of he's already got this idea in mind. And of course, I do think even from the pilot we kind of get the feeling that he wants to do something about this, and it's very important. And I think the show right now is making a really good case for starting this early, actually. And I wasn't sure about that before. Last week I was still saying, why can't this just be a Batman show? And yet, I've always thought that for somebody to be able to do the things that Bruce Wayne does and become almost superhuman at his detective skills and his physical skills and all the sorts of things that we think of Batman as the only person who can do it, you'd have to start the night your parents died, right? Like, you'd have to start that early.
Yeah.
And I think they're being pretty smart about that so far. Let me mention one or two others real quick. Sorry, one second.
Faster.
Circuit Breaker, what about Fish Mooney's not boyfriend? They say his name is Laszlo. Do you think this is a reference to Professor Pig? He's in the new trailers for the season, so maybe this was his setup. What do you think of that, Steve? What does... Because I don't know Professor Pig as well as you do. What is the significance of Laszlo with Pig?
Well, Professor Pig's real name is Laszlo, I think, Valentine.
Oh, is
Valentine,
it?
something
Okay.
like that. It's either that or his son. And with what we get in this episode, I don't think he's going to be Professor Pig. We might get something later, like Laszlo's dad shows up and becomes Professor Pig or something like that. But there's not a lot of indications to it. We get his mask in this episode, so maybe they're building to it, but I'm not sure if it's that character specifically.
Well, and I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be the Professor Pig mask, or if it just was a pig mask that that made me go, oh yeah, Professor Pig, yeah.
It's a really weird coincidence if it is.
He mentioned the trailer. Steve, I don't remember seeing a glimpse of Professor Pig in the trailer. Was it just that mask that was in the trailer and people were saying, oh, that's Pig, or was it actually a different mask?
There was a slightly overweight guy with a mask on that resembled a pig, but some people are saying that it might be Scarecrow.
See, I thought that was Scarecrow.
Really sure.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we'll see as we go along. I don't want to just sit here and try to figure out something we'll know 3 weeks from now. But, yeah, I would be very surprised if that guy turned into a crazed supervillain with his own gang. That seems really unlikely to me. Just he doesn't seem assertive enough. He obviously can't take the heat, and I don't know that he ultimately will survive past this episode.
He dies at the end of this episode, does he not?
Does he? Doesn't he? I thought so.
She says to take care of him?
She says take care of him. I don't think we actually see it happen. Yeah.
No.
Okay, I guess I'm just assuming that they killed him off screen or something.
Yeah, that's what I figured that too. I don't even know what Professor Pig is or who Professor Pig is. I don't even know why there's a Gotham show. They should have a Professor Pig show. Just from what you guys are talking about, it makes me want to see a Professor Pig show now.
Professor Pig is a Morrison creation, right, Steve? Or did
I'm not sure if Morrison created him, but he's a character that's very pivotal to Grant Morrison's run when we get to Batman and Robin and when we get to Batman Incorporated a little bit.
And Dan, did you see any Beware the Batman? Because he was in that. Oh, okay.
Yeah. He was pretty terrible in that.
Yeah, I'm not saying he was good in that. I'm just saying there's a thing that he appeared in that maybe you saw.
Yeah.
Let's go on to our general overview for today's episode, The Balloonman. I want to start right off by saying that I was nothing short of riveted all the way through this one. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Let's start with Steve. Steve, give me a thing you really liked, and let's springboard that into some general conversation. Go ahead.
Okay, I thought this episode was fantastic, like you mentioned. I just rewatched it a few minutes ago, actually. Something I want to mention, because it's really kind of brief, and we already sort of touched on this in the beginning, is the Bruce-Alfred relationship gets really, it gets some more detail, it gets some more context, and they start opening up a little bit. Right after the first commercial break, we see Bruce and Alfred kind of practice fencing, but it's all for play. It kind of has that fun Zorro feel that Bruce should have at this age. It's a little lively. Alfred's funny, but you can still see that there's something behind Bruce's eyes, that he wants to enjoy this, but he might not be getting as much out of it as he could if he wasn't so hurt by his parents. He's
actually resisting it entirely. He keeps throughout that entire scene saying, I don't want to do this, and yet smiling all the way through it, like he's got this really sad conflict where he won't let himself be a kid, and I think Alfred has really come a long way already from what we were all worried about that he was going to be, of being like this really stuffy, really strict kind of version of that character. And I think ultimately the reason that he seemed that super strict was because he was afraid he couldn't give Bruce a childhood. His strictness, this is so interesting, his strictness is, you must have fun now. And I love that, and I thought that worked really well. Yeah, they seemed so much more real together, and I'm just looking at the future and going, this could be a fantastic dynamic.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I loved seeing him just try. Yeah, because he's been so stuffy at this point. Like, he's been so very straightforward and no nonsense, and I liked seeing him trying to push him to be a kid. I just like that.
Yeah, agreed. Bruce does that really stereotypical Batman thing of he doesn't eat, but Alfred keeps making him food.
Yeah.
But it's almost it's not only sad, but it's also a little bit funny the way Alfred talks about it. Like, maybe I just shouldn't cook anymore.
He's like, why do I bother cooking? And without the sword fight scene, I think that might have seemed still that kind of stuffy thing. But once we got that scene, all of a sudden we got a little bit more dimension. He's coming alive a bit more, and we can see the nuances in those sorts of things. So yeah. I don't know. That's really exciting. I think that they're pretty sophisticated so far at bringing in the kind of classic Batman stuff without being too in your face about it or too gimmicky or too like, look how clever we are for doing this. Like we've already had, you know, Bruce Wayne sneaks up on people. Now we've had he refuses food from Alfred. Like a lot of the major Batman stuff is already there. Helps it feel more like a Batman show, but it also doesn't feel too much like we're just going to stall out for seasons and seasons and seasons until we finally get to the place where they will allow him to become Batman. I feel like there's a real progression already starting. That's very exciting.
Yeah, and he already at this point by the end of the episode already has the sense that, you know, killing is still wrong no matter what. Like, so they're definitely setting up those kind of morals down the line.
My favorite thing about this episode is the themes that we explore, but the fact that they're explored well. Vigilanteism, episode 3, fantastic. And I mean, that could have been so badly done, but what we've got here is a very traditional kind of Batman villain, but it's a new villain, and we didn't have to waste someone or again be gimmicky with, hey, look, we're throwing in all these characters, you know. This Balloonman guy is a totally brand new creation as far as I'm aware. I didn't look anything up, but I mean, like he seemed very fresh. And what I loved about him was that he's got that classic Batman villain thing of he's kind of delusional and demented, but he's also sympathetic. I understand why he's doing what he's doing, and I can kind of sympathize with him. And he's also got that classic, he and our hero are kind of more the same than they are different, and that's unsettling for Gordon. They both kind of want the same things, and the whole, you know, where do you draw the line between justice and, you know, criminal behavior? Yeah, I was really impressed that we tackled vigilanteism and then roped Bruce Wayne into that the way that we did. It was incredibly well handled.
Yeah. It was extremely fascinating when we got to that ending scene, and I thought Gordon figuring out who he was a little bit too easy. I call it magic evidence powers when I review Batman Eternal, but yeah, it's not great. But when we get to that scene where Gordon's confronting him at gunpoint, and he asks him, who are you fighting for? And he's listing all of these terrible things that happened in Gotham. And it's a direct progression of the kidnapping plot from last episode. And we really get to see how terrible the city is last time, and how we could honestly create a person like the Balloonman in this episode. It works really well. It's not an out-of-nowhere thing. There is a progression there.
Do you not feel like the city opens up in this episode?
Yeah.
First episode, one of my complaints was it feels very small because everyone involved are people I've heard of before. I really enjoyed the juxtaposition of almost this whole episode takes place during the daytime, and it's like really bright but not chipper, and there's this really unsettling juxtaposition of all these horrible things happening in broad daylight.
Yeah, I think because all up to this point, for the most part, all of the outer city stuff is pretty much just establishing shots. And this one we have Penguin returning to Gotham and seeing these different crimes happening, and then we have the Balloonman striking at night and day and stuff like that. And even Gordon going into the sewers. Like, there's a lot more of an exploration of just the environment, which I completely agree. It definitely did open up a lot more.
Yeah, and when we get Penguin at the very opening, he's relishing all of these crimes. He sees a person lose their purse and be mugged, and he's like, this is home. He was happy. He was smiling all the way through. And it kind of makes the city a little bit more cartoony, but it works. Because there's no way any city could work when it's as corrupt as Gotham is.
Yeah, I probably should have mentioned this comment, and I'm not going to go back right now and figure out who it was, but somebody last week left a comment and was like, yeah, this city couldn't possibly exist. Like, the federal government would shut this down. There's no way. And I'm like, yes, and I think the show is aware of that, right? Like this is a heightened comic book sort of reality. Dan, last week you said that you were kind of surprised that they're going with such cartoony designs for some characters. characters, and we got more of that here.
The owner of the weather balloon thing.
Yeah.
The second he popped up, I was like, that's more of the same, like, just cartooniness.
And
like,
that is
not even the look, the acting. Like, the acting is so.
That is a Dick Tracy villain, man. Like he's got that high pitched voice, and it was hilarious. And I feel like this whole episode has kind of a bit of a, not the whole thing, but a bit of kind of a playful vibe, and yet it's still disturbing and unsettling. And I don't know, last week I was like kind of resisting just how relentless the darkness was, and I enjoyed the balance of this episode. I actually found this really entertaining, and did that thing where I'm kind of laughing at things I don't think I should be laughing at, and I kind of enjoy that happening to me while I'm watching something like this.
The part with Bullock after Gordon is pointing the gun at the big lady who is fighting. What'd you guys think when he punched her? Like, I laughed at that, and I was like, I don't know if I should be laughing at that, but I laughed at that.
No, agreed. It was funny. It was, and Bullock's a little bit more subtle in this. We've got his comedic moments, but they all kind of add up to his worldview, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But we're getting like this animated series kind of vibe of the city is still really timeless, and everything's really exaggerated and over the top, but it's still extremely human. Like, I even thought the Barbara Gordon scene this time around was actually pretty well handled, despite that woman not knowing how to act.
Yeah, I'm still not digging the thing with her and Montoya, because I think it's a little forced.
Okay, so last week I talked about how much I liked like her scene, and then this week it just felt like a step backwards.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I don't like that subplot. I really don't like it at all.
Yeah, it's not working for me. I feel like we could do the problem with it, I think, is that we could do everything that matters without the love triangle.
Yeah.
And love triangles need, in my opinion, I've always thought that love triangles, when they work, because it's rare, especially on television, love triangles need to be a means unto themselves. They can't be a stepping stone to get us someplace else. I've got to be invested in a love triangle because these are three characters that I really like, and seeing them trying to figure out who should be with whom is interesting. This is a case where it is manufactured drama in order to heighten the stuff with Montoya thinking that Gordon might be corrupt. Do we need it? Could we not do exactly what we're doing without that love triangle?
It's trying to riff on the Dark Knight, I think, because the Dark Knight has that love triangle, and we've got two public servants, one of them being Bruce Wayne, one of them being Harvey Dent and Rachel, and there's clearly some parallels there. The problem, of course, is that the Dark Knight makes all three of these people really well-rounded characters and crucial to each other, and so when Bruce and Harvey have kind of like their back and forth, he respects both men either way, and they have a respect for each other. Gordon and Montoya, Gordon's got a character Montoya doesn't, and every time she's on screen, it seems like her personality is being forfeited because we need this romantic tension there, and we're not developing her. We're thinking that just having her as a means to conflict is enough, and that it's really not.
Also, I only like so far, and I mean, Montoya, I imagine I will come to appreciate as they kind of flesh her out. Right now, though, the problem is you got one prong of that triangle that I care about, which is Gordon, and the other two, whatever. Like, but like Barbara is kind of a non-entity to me right now. She's still got that problem, Steve, that you mentioned. I almost said every time. Both times we've talked about this. That she's. That like she and Gordon are supposed to be fiancés, but they seem like they just met, and that still is a problem in this episode. And in fact, it's in the writing, but not any further than that. Like this episode, they actually kind of come out and make a really big deal out of, oh Jim, I know you, and I'm like, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, agreed. I like the exchange she has with Gordon at the very end of the episode before Penguin shows up, but it's not acted really well. There's not a connection there. I don't understand why Gordon is so willing to confide in her, and they're not giving us anything to latch on to. Like, I don't know why they started dating. I don't know why Gordon loves her as much as they do. They need some kind of flashback or backstory for me to at least care, because the actress isn't bringing anything to the table, so the writing has to.
Well, and I always resist go to flashback for everything. Honestly, I think, and this is rewriting it a little too much probably, but honestly, with everything else being set up in the show, why do we need the genesis? And I mean, you're right, it's not really the genesis, but why do we need, like, so early in that relationship? Why couldn't they have been married 5 years? I just feel like give him something more to grasp onto that's like familiar to him and like grounds him and gives him kind of a foundation. So like he goes home to someone in a place that is familiar and makes sense to him, and then when he leaves that place, he's out in like this alien wilderness. I mean, that's what I would have done with it. I'm not saying this can't work. It's just so far I'm not invested yet. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to hit it too hard and waste too much time with it. But that's how I feel about it.
I think it might also have been just as easy to have her first meet Gordon in the first episode, and then just have them start dating within the series. If they're going to play it the way they're playing it, yes. Yeah, and also if they're going to have a kid and they want to do the whole he cheats on her with Sarah Essen thing, which they might not, but if they do, it might have worked better if they weren't already getting married.
Yeah. You mentioned Dark Knight. I was also reminded of that film with, and this is a little bit vaguer, but with the whole Jim Gordon has to try to keep the city going with a lie. We've got that here, and I think that is already really interesting, and was afraid they were going to drag it out longer than they have. I really did not expect Montoya to already know that he allegedly killed Cobblepot in this and confronts him about it. Yay for going that early. Like, they're not wasting time on this stuff, man. Like, they seem to have a really clear direction. Like I said, a lot of people first episode saying they don't know yet what the show is. I feel like they're on track right now. I mean, I feel like they've got a pretty good sense of where they want to go, and that they're not like stalling for time with that. I think it's really interesting that Gordon has to make one branch of the police department think he killed Cobblepot, and the other side think that he did not kill Cobblepot. Yeah. Oh wow, the politics of this are great.
Yeah, agreed. I still don't like the actors for Alan and Montoya, but when they go and they confront Gordon, and then Gordon immediately confides to Bullock, and you can see that they're kind of stressing him both ways. And Gordon really breaks down by the end of this episode. Like, he's not sure of himself, and that a lot of that doesn't has to do with both the Balloonman, but it also has to do with the fact that the city structure in and of itself, even if he plays by its rules to try and make it better, it still breaks him, and it goes a long way to make the city a bigger character.
Well, I think it's all about this place is so insanely corrupt and so exaggerated that there's no easy answer. You can't just say the law will prevail, and you can't just say if we just killed all the bad people then the city would be okay. You got to have something in between, and Bruce Wayne is that midpoint, but he's not old enough to do anything about it yet. I love that, and I love that it's through the Balloonman that just hearing about him and getting the sense of vigilantism and what if it is a thing that anybody should do, what it should be, and that you get to the end of the episode and you have Gordon on one side, you have the Balloonman on the other side, and you got Bruce Wayne right in the middle.
Yeah, in a lot of cases when we talk about like Batman as far as like politics go, there's always that legitimate source of violence, which is the Gotham Police Department. And they're all corrupt, so they don't really work. And then on the other end, you've got the criminals and the people, and there's this really big disconnect between the people and their laws versus the government and the way they're enforcing their laws. And it creates a lot of the tension between both sides of the party. And Batman's always that linkage institution between the two. The reason he drops off the criminals in front of the Gotham City Police Department precinct is not because it's campy, but because he's a tool of the government, so that the people can see that they're protected and that the law works for them. And Gordon has it in this episode where he says if anyone's above the law, then the law doesn't matter and doesn't work anymore.
That's right. Yeah. If that happens, there is no law. I like that he and the Balloonman both have the same kind of ideal of we must treat everyone the same, but what they each think should be done with them is of course different, and so the Balloonman says, well, kill everyone because everyone's bad. Like, I can justify killing anyone in the city because they're all corrupt. And I really love the line, by the way, who is his next victim going to be? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. That was really great.
Yeah. One of the criticisms I think I want to bring up at this point is it's insane the fact that no one in the police department knows how a weather balloon works.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Or just how a balloon in
Yeah. So wait, you mean at some point it pops?
I was the second that guy flew up the first time, I was like, at what point are bodies gonna start raining from the sky? Like I thought the same thing. It's like, wait a second, what happens when it reaches the stratosphere?
I think it is, intentionally or otherwise, I'm not sure, the balloon thing is a really interesting metaphor for the corruption of the city. The idea, it's almost an optimistic one in a really morbid way because we've got bodies falling from the sky, but it's optimistic in the sense that that if I'm not reaching too far, it might be saying that that like the corruption can only go so far, and then it's gonna collapse on itself. You know, what goes up must come down. The other cliche being, you once you go all the way to the top, there's nowhere to go but down. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that all goes back to Falcone in the very first episode when he said the Waynes were a pillar of this city, and the fact that he loves the city because he can get away with crime. The very fact that he's allowed to do that is what killed the Waynes in the first place. He's got this balance, but in trying to maintain it, he destroys it just by trying to make it work. And that all works with the Balloonman idea really well. And it's also good he's not in this episode for too much to make that theme too spelled out. So when we get to the Balloonman at the end, there's a little bit of a problem of you kind of just gave us everything we picked up in subtext in dialogue.
Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't care for that either because I think the subtext is pretty evident. Like you know in a good way. It's not in your face. It's just that it's the metaphors and just what it's doing thematically with everything else is so evident in the storytelling that they don't have to push that. But yeah, like what Falcone has is an unstable system. It's unsustainable, as is trying to dispose of bodies with a weather balloon. It's unsustainable. And I wondered at first if the Balloonman wasn't a little bit more like thoughtful and about it, and like maybe he was making a statement with using the balloons. Once we meet him, I kind of felt like that was just a shtick. Like I wasn't real sure that he had thought it out the way I had thought it out. I don't know. Like I don't know if he was making a statement with what exactly the apparatus was.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Not that it matters that much, but I was kind of curious.
He stole 4 of them, and it feels deliberate all the way up until you get to the end, and then he says it doesn't matter who his last target was, but he clearly had some kind of. He had
somebody in mind. I found myself wondering if his next target wasn't Gordon.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking Gordon or Bullock, but Gordon kind of made sense if he bought the lie that or bought that he was the one who killed Penguin. I thought that might have, I thought it was all an elaborate trap, but it just seems like because it seemed like an elaborate trap. They're standing across the road and they see a balloon in the alleyway down there. Like I figured that it was going to go that route of it was you the last target, mwahaha. But yeah.
Well, the only problem with that, of course, is that I don't know how he would know that that Gordon had allegedly killed Penguin, because that's not like public.
If he did.
Well, if he was in the system though, like he was within the police system. So if it's going around GCPD that he killed Penguin on the hush hush, maybe
And you're right, it kind of is, because Essen's like, good job, you're with the program. Like second episode, she's like, oh, you killed that guy. Yep, you got to do those sorts of things if you're gonna work here.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're right. Other people could know about it. All right, yeah, fair enough. Was anybody else surprised that we found out the identity of the Balloonman? Because I kind of thought they were going to keep him masked the whole time. With episode title alone, I thought he was going to be another possible Joker.
Yeah, and I didn't think it would be his identity we discovered as easily as it was, because. In any sort of whodunit scenario like that, like if they were going to build up to the who is the Balloon Man, I mean, outside of, well, no, like he was pretty much the only character it could have been through introductions of this episode.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really surprised by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an easy mystery, because despite Gordon figuring it out too easily at the end, they do plant the seeds for it, kind of, and it does all add up by the end of it. I wasn't so sure that they were going to keep him going as much as maybe have him like kill himself at the end, or have them find him dead at the end or something.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I didn't figure he'd be a recurring character. I just didn't think that they'd unmask him. I kind of thought his identity would remain a mystery by the end, somehow. And when you're talking about easy mystery, I mean, the one thing that I really latched onto was, I don't know, you're doing that kind of 60s Batman thing of, this is the only possible location! And I'm like, why? You thought of one building they're gonna demolish and assumed that must be it! Why? But, beyond that, I wasn't through the whole episode really thinking about it as a mystery, and it is, but like Dan, I wasn't thinking, oh man, it's too bad that I wasn't more surprised by the reveal, because I wasn't trying to figure it out, because I didn't think they were gonna tell us!
Well, I was like, throughout it, I was just like, what characters could it be? Because I figured it was going to have a capped off ending.
Yeah.
But it would have been hilarious if they never unasked him and like found out his last location, and he just grabs the balloon and is like, you'll never know who I am! And it flies off. And
that would have been awesome!
I also, the part where him and Cranston are having that tussle, I thought Cranston was just gonna keep beating the crap out of him. But the part where Cranston and him were having the tussle, and he was just like, "Who are you?" I was so waiting for, "I'm Balloonman." Just like, I was waiting for that to happen. That was such a missed opportunity.
But first, he needed to say, "I want you to tell all your friends about me."
What's that from?
He would, 89 Batman. He would have first had to have said, "I want you to tell all your friends about me," and then he'd say, "Who are you?" and then he'd say, "I'm the Balloonman."
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, that's what he would have.
Oh man.
I really, through this whole thing, I really wanted one time somebody to say he stole my balloons, and it was just really unfortunate. He stole my balloons. We never got it. Steve, do you not feel like this guy and just this whole scenario is incredibly classic Batman?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I can't believe that this is a thing that I've never really seen before. Like getting rid of people with weather balloons. That's really, I've never seen that. I couldn't believe that this bad guy premise was so different. I've never seen that.
I mean, we mentioned him earlier on. This feels like a Morrison kind of plot.
It does, actually.
Really over the top.
Except that I understood what was going on the whole way through, and I don't feel like I need 5 years of continuity before I can understand it.
But it does build on the previous continuity with the last episode, so maybe it is Morrison. But yeah, it feels exactly like a really classic Batman, maybe 50s, 60s, maybe even a Dennis O'Neil kind of story. I know the Balloonman is a character in the comics. Balloon Man, he's a Metal Man character, but he doesn't have this motif at all.
Oh, okay.
It's a completely different person. So I'm not sure what they picked from and what they didn't to get that character built, but he's really kind of well-rounded. I could almost see the argument made for him being incorporated into the comics.
Well, yeah, because it's a really cool, like I can't believe I've never seen that before. I mean, maybe it's been done and I just haven't read it, but wow, that's really cool. I want to go back to the Gordon and the Vigilante thing for a minute, because there's a beat about that we haven't hit yet that we should talk about, and that is, once again, people have been worried, and I think us a little bit about this too, that Gordon would become kind of Batman before Batman in the show, and I think that this episode is going a long way to helping us at least see how that might not be the case. I love that he's taking a stand against vigilanteism while Bruce Wayne is using the very same scenario to start to spin his wheels and figure out what maybe he might be able to do with this whole thing. Oh, I know I don't want to kill people, but I know that the law is not enough because the law is corrupt and we can't trust it, and that's the whole reason the Balloonman got made in the first place. I really like that Gordon makes this big deal out of, if the law doesn't work, we create vigilantes because we have to give people faith in the system. So, I don't know, we might get some Gordon as Batman too much just because of the characters that he deals with, but his worldview is not Batman's worldview.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Beware the Batman, because that series does that for a few episodes before Gordon starts working with him. And even then, he doesn't really support the vigilante side of it. Gordon's interesting in that he's got this underdeveloped rule consequentialist kind of philosophy, where last episode we saw him where a Bullock's beating up the thug and he says 30 children versus one scumbag, and he's just counting that. But in this episode he's affirming that you don't break the law. That in any action that undermines the law is bad for that statute, and you have to uphold that above all else, even if you have to risk calculations and deciding what the right thing to do is.
Right.
So I think that's a really interesting way to take them, because Batman doesn't play by those rules. Batman plays by deontologic rules. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. It doesn't matter how you get there.
Yeah.
So there's clearly going to be some kind of contrast between these two characters, and it's really good that we didn't get Bruce and Gordon in a scene together this episode, because we do have to separate those two people a little bit at this point.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I've always thought that Gordon and Batman were both kind of idealistic characters, but their ideals are kind of just different ideals to a degree, right? Like both are willing to go a certain length in compromising to get what they think needs to be done. After all, Batman usually does believe in the law. He likes the idea of the law upholding justice, but I guess the issue is sometimes the rules don't match up with what the morality is. Like I guess that's the idea.
Yeah. It's like that quite a bit, because Batman, people always make this case because Batman doesn't kill any characters, but he's never opposed to a cop killing a criminal on the line of duty.
No, that's right.
Yeah, so like he's got this respect for the law, but he's also this institution that's built on the idea that the law doesn't protect everyone, and therefore I exist because certain things are just wrong and the city won't help them.
Yeah, but
Gordon seems to think has this idea of the law can protect everyone and it will protect everyone. We just need everyone to be like me.
And I think the key phrase there is certain things, because I mean, like he does usually have kind of somewhat of an absolutist philosophy. These things are right, these things are wrong. But like I think that Batman is usually a character that like, you know, can kind of see, you can prioritize. You know what I mean? At the same time, Batman's rules are for himself are not the same rules that he would see imposed on everybody else. And that's the whole kind of like catch-22 and sometimes kind of paradox with that character, that he has his absolute philosophy. This is what you ought to do, and like we have to uphold these principles, but he has his own set of rules for himself, and they're a lot stricter than they would be for anybody else.
Yeah. It's interesting because Batman doesn't want people to emulate what he's doing, but at the same time, he exists so people understand why he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. He's like the exception that proves the rule, sort of.
Yeah. And I like, to get back to this a little bit more, but I like that Gordon is really clear about the fact that that idea doesn't always work, and he's against vigilantes. He says, I think his exact words were something like, everybody has to matter, or nobody matters, and people lose faith. That's when you get vigilantes, like you said. And he's commenting to Barbara about the Balloonman and how much press he's getting. And even at the end of the episode, the press loves the Balloonman. And Gordon sees this as a disease of the city, that we're inspiring people in the Balloonman because people don't have faith in their police system.
Yeah.
And he's trying at the end of it, at the end when he's reasoning with the Balloonman, he's trying very hard to convince him that we just need to reform the people. We don't have to resort to this.
And of course, the flip of that is, like I was talking about earlier, the Balloonman saying, well, if everybody's corrupt, then they all deserve my brand of justice. And I don't know, I really enjoyed that they managed to do such good character parallels between those two characters. What else? Let's talk about Penguin. I was really excited about the cliffhanger. I, once again, didn't think we'd get to anything like that this early. He is still kind of the coolest. I shouldn't say coolest because he's horrifying, but like, I'm having a hard time not seeing him as my favorite character right now.
Yeah, agree. He's a lot of fun in a really demented, creepy way. He is this really fine line. I think we mentioned last episode. He's this really fine line between Danny DeVito Batman Returns and comic book intellectual, and it's really working.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, he's ruthless. He will kill anybody for a pair of shoes or a sandwich. I was half expecting he was going to kill the sandwich vendor just to get a sandwich.
The sandwich.
But yeah, no, he's crazy, and I really like the kind of dark humor aspect of what they're doing with him, because it's just anybody he sees, if he wants what they have, just pull out the switch knife and. But yeah.
Well, and he's also really, really calculating. I mean, I'm still really digging this whole thing where sometimes I can't tell if he's, like, feigning insecurity, or if he really is as insecure as he seems to be, there's there's so many layers to the way that, he's being played, I think, where like a lot of the time it does kind of feel like you're really insecure, but you also know what you're capable of. But then there's other scenes where I'm like, I don't know that you're not playing that up to kind of make it easier to get what you want. And he surprises me. He'll go into a scene, and I think he's just going in to like get something very simple really quickly, but he's got this whole like long-term plan, and that's the whole thing with the restaurant. I didn't know what that was about, and then once I found out, I was like, that's really impressive.
Yeah, this guy's got a sort of emotional intelligence about him. Like, he knows what people think of him, and it almost seems like he's got these levels of who he acts and how. So if there's just a common street tough, he will kill them for what he needs. But when you get to stuff like Maroney in this episode, I think he really is just faking all of the insecurity there. I think he's got a really, really solid plan for how he's going to get Maroney, and Maroney's even foreshadowing it when he says, "I used to be like you, and now look at me." And it's a city of opportunities, and Penguin really seems to believe that.
Yeah, he's definitely very calculated. It's clear that he's switching it on and off, because I think he wanted Maroney to come over to him and like notice him listening in almost. I felt like that was very like. I feel like he's maybe, I don't know what exactly his plan is, but it seems like he's almost trying to play the Maroney side now and kind of climb up those ranks potentially through that kind of meet. I don't know, but yeah, I think he's very calculated with what he's doing, especially going to Gordon's apartment at the end.
Yeah. I've got a question though.
Yeah.
What happened to him renting the trailer and kidnapping the kid for blackmail money from his mother last week?
That's a really good question.
Did he just stop?
They kind of foreshadow potentially him just killing the kid because the mom didn't believe him? Or
yeah.
They left off. Yeah, that's what it was. I don't know. I would imagine since he's back in Gotham, he maybe got the money. But that's kind of left up to interpretation because they didn't go into that.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're here's the thing. They do this a lot with Penguin in the show, where they'll have him say a thing that makes you think he's about to go kill this person, and then you never see it happen. Like, they do that all the time with him, and I think you're right, Dan. I think that's what they were doing with the whole trailer thing. I'm not sure why he needed to rent a trailer, because he wasn't there that long.
Maybe he just needed a place to set up.
Yeah, I guess. He was like...
I mean, he's got his own kill board set up on there at the end of the episode, so I'm not sure what he's doing.
He's going to be there a while. Or like he's already been there for but I'm not sure how much time passed there. I mean, he could have been there a week, you know, like...
He might still be living there and we'll get like a follow-up next week. It's just weird that they didn't continue that, seeing as the last thing we saw him last week was he was about to hurt that kid because the mother didn't believe him.
I would be very surprised if we went back there, because he makes such a big deal out of, the only reason I came back to Gotham is because I can't stay away. And this is a character where I can't believe everything he says. He maybe had just planned on coming back like this all along, but the way he plays it, it's almost like I was on the run, I was safe, nobody knew who I was, but I just couldn't stay away. Then he comes back, or maybe he's playing that up, because when he gets back into Gotham, he's immediately seen by somebody who recognizes him, and I loved that, because the first thing I thought of was, somebody's going to recognize him. And sure enough, right away, because Fish's people are everywhere, and right away, one of Fish's people sees him, and is like, and of course, I'm the idiot viewer shoving my popcorn in my mouth, going, Penguin, you're an idiot. You shouldn't have come back to Gotham. What's wrong with you? And then he's like, yeah, no, I can kill people with my pinky finger, and you're done. You know, so yeah, he is a really unreliable source of information about himself. When he says things, I don't know what I'm supposed to take from it yet, and that's awesome. He's manipulating the audience almost as much as he's manipulating people inside the show.
Yeah.
So, yay. Can we talk about shoes, please?
Yes.
Every episode so far, there has been some kind of a fixation on shoes. In the first episode, it was shiny shoes, Mother of God. I'll never forget it. The second episode, there was also a mention of shoes. Did you know? Did either of you guys catch that one? I'm trying to remember what it was. It was inside the police precinct, and there was some line about like somebody taking their shoes off before something happened or something. I forget what exactly it was, but there was a line about shoes in that episode. And then here, we also have shoes, and this time it's Penguin killing someone for his shoes. Do either of you guys have any idea yet as to where we might be going with this motif? Or is it possible that it really is just a coincidence? I don't see how it possibly could be. I think there's something going on there.
You can't have a close-up of Gordon cleaning the crap off his shoes and not have a subplot building with these shoes going on right now.
Yeah, it's definitely, if not a subplot, it's definitely a symbol.
Maybe they have a sponsorship with Adidas. Who knows?
Steve, Dan, anybody got an idea as to what maybe we're doing with the shoe thing? I don't know that we've had enough of it yet to really start analyzing it. I mean, like when I think of like when I look at something like this, usually I just like to look at what the object is and what it tends to represent, or just you know what's inherently there about it. Okay, we protect our feet with shoes. We use our feet to get places. We like escape or arriving someplace. What is the shoe thing doing in this?
They make that point in the restaurant to Penguin about that this is a job where you're on your feet all day.
Yeah,
and it's the same restaurant where Maroney says it's the city of opportunities, and where this is where you are, and this is where I went from there. I think we might be onto something on the fact that the shoes might be a symbol for maybe rising power, because we're really fixated on, we got the shiny shoes as being the clue that tips the scale of the Wayne murder. We're using shoes as kind of Penguin's into Maroney. So yeah, I think there's something there, but I think at this point we really are just extrapolating based on not enough evidence.
But it's fun to kind of guess. Now that you say that, I think the adage that if you're right that they would be kind of playing with is the having someone like under your heel, under your boot. Shoes actually, now that you say that, are a symbol of power a lot. You know what I mean? Like the little people under the foot of the oppressor. So that we might be going someplace with that, because we do have kind of a changing hands of, well, not exactly power. I don't know how powerful the Waynes were so much as influential. Like, they weren't mob people, although we don't know anything about them. The Waynes in this could be just as corrupt as everybody else. I think we should consider the possibility that we might do a whole plot in this of Bruce Wayne discovers his parents weren't who he thought they were, because they live in Gotham City. Because this is the most corrupt Gotham I've ever seen. Like, would you agree with that, Steve? That this one's going pretty far with that.
Yeah, it's up there. I think Frank Miller's might still be the definitive of corrupt Gotham in Dark Knight Returns. And there's a Dark Knight Returns reference in this episode, so that's fun. But yeah, it's definitely getting up there. Give it a couple more episodes. It could very easily, if we get some kind of street gang brewing, it could very easily be as corrupt as that.
Before we go to best moment, worst moment, I also just want to mention that I really that this episode is doing a really good job of having a good sense of continuity and being a good standalone story that you could just sit down and watch, but is furthering everything that's going on with the big overall story going forward. It's very, very well written in that way.
Yeah, and we're doing a little bit more than just a mystery body every week and procedural crime things. Yeah. Like last episode, we had kidnappings. Episode before that, it was a murder. This episode's a vigilante. They're clearly progressing, and it's not getting boiled down to a formula yet. And next episode, it'll be institutionalized psychopaths. Yeah,
because
Arkham.
They're going to do Arkham. Yeah, so you're right. They're doing a really good job of not nailing themselves down. So far, it just seems kind of like what we do with comic books. I mean, with superhero comic books, we explore all these different kinds of little subgenres. I also want to mention that it's kind of funny that it was literally raining men.
That song should
but
have been
nobody said hallelujah because that old lady got crushed.
I was about to say, and those men that were raining fell on an old lady walking a dog.
Let's go ahead and go on. And I'm sorry, Dan, you haven't weighed in a whole lot yet. Was there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to throw your hat in?
I think they're going to reveal at some point that Bruce Wayne's parents really wore shoes.
They were. You think they were shoes? Is it going to be like that really sad cartoon shoe in Who Framed Roger Rabbit that gets acid killed by Judge Doom?
Of course. Yeah, I think so. That movie all the way around. Somewhat.
That's also about corruption.
I just want to throw in something. 3 episodes in, do you think this is kind of the opposite of Arrow, in that Arrow is really plot-driven, and ideas just happen to form, and we tend to get problems with those ideas not always being natural, but the plot seems to be working? And in this show, the plot's got its issues, but it seems to be really heavy on the ideas.
So far. I mean, three episodes in, it could totally go in more of a plot-driven direction. But yes, so far, it does seem to be all about exploring ideas. And I'm such a character and idea guy, and I'm really kind of eating it up right now.
Yeah, because I recently started rewatching Arrow, and the first 3 episodes of that show, they really are kind of polar opposite at this point.
Yeah, I can see that.
Aside from the realism.
Let's go on to best moment, worst moment. Dan, what was your favorite moment this episode, sir?
I absolutely loved the Bullock finding someone montage. That had me laughing so hard because I think because that was relatively early on in the episode, probably a little under halfway, and I really like. When that started happening and he was going through his different, very unreliable but somewhat reliable sources, the weird daisy chaining of evidence he was gathering from, I heard from this guy who did this guy, and it was hilarious. But I said out loud to my girlfriend who I was watching the episode with, I was like, I really like this show. Like, I was just like, I'm liking this so much more episode per episode. Like, I like that everybody's getting something to do. Like, it's so good. I just really liked the way that scene played out, and yeah, I liked it. Like you said, it felt more open. It felt like we're exploring more of Gotham. That and the Penguin seeing the ladies of the night during broad daylight soliciting people on the street and somebody getting their purse snatched, and I just like that Gotham is starting to breathe a bit more and we're getting more outside stuff as opposed to just being in either Wayne Manor or GCPD. Like, I like spending time in those places, but I like being out and abroad and seeing how everything's played out.
And Penguin acts like he's Ebenezer Scrooge on Christmas morning. He's like, oh, good, I haven't missed it. Steve, what was your favorite moment of the episode?
The Penguin one's a close second, but I think I'm going to go with the very end when Gordon is confronting the Balloonman.
Yep, that's mine.
And we get that awesome exchange about whose side is Gordon really on? Does he understand who he represents? And how just talking to this guy for a couple minutes kind of breaks down his whole day.
Yeah.
No matter how much good he's done. I think it's beautifully depressing.
Yeah, it's a really classic hero villain motif, but where the hero is forced to take a good look at himself and see if he's really that far removed from what he sees as his opposite of the evil, and yet it wasn't like too typical or obvious about it. It was just using that kind of classical situation and making me fall in love with it all over again. Yeah, that was my favorite too. Well, I'm gonna assume that Dan's worst moment is also my worst moment, but go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I think we talked about that earlier. The scene with name Barbara and
Montoya.
No, Montoya. That's what I was trying to remember.
Hey,
Montoya.
Dan, did you just transform into a game show host? What
name is?
What happened there? Where's my $64,000?
No, was it Counting Cryptofreaks where you had Love Triangle Face?
Love Triangle Face.
We should start doing counts for Love Triangle Face in this show.
Yep, because we saw it.
Exactly like I said before. It was one step forward for Barbara last episode and 2 steps back this episode. I don't care. I don't care.
I don't either.
About Montoya's mistakes in the past with Barbara. Like, I don't care. Please stop showing me it. No, I don't know. I don't really know what to say outside of just like the entire time I was moaning during that scene. It was just like, oh, I made mistakes. And Barbara randomly like smoking pot while she was in her apartment. And I'm like, this is the weird, like for the first episode, we got random lesbian. And then I was just like, what is going on with this character? I don't understand. I don't know.
Dan, what do you predict she'll be doing next episode?
At this point, I think she's going to be laying on the ground outside the apartment shooting up or something. Like, I don't know. Just, like, waiting for Montoya to walk up again and say, Jim did this. Oh, he couldn't have done this. It was the same thing as the first episode, pretty much, except for she was sitting on the couch smoking pot. Like,
it's just gonna get really bizarre where she's got all these strange personality quirks, like she's taking a bubble bath and eating Twizzlers, and you're just like, what? What is happening?
Oh, man. Yeah, no, I just, I don't like the direction that's going, but I like her and Jim when they're together now. Like
I'm still not with that yet, but I'm trying.
I don't know. Her and Montoya, that's so annoying.
Steve, what was your worst moment?
Same thing.
All right,
Same
cool.
thing.
Well, we've done that dance.
The trifecta.
No triangle conflict here.
We have a hate triangle.
Yeah, it's a hate triangle. Yeah, Dan and I are each trying to decide which one is hated more by Steve, and I know. I'm kidding. We got kind of a happy triangle. So let's go on to guest stars. Maroney was one of my favorite characters from Dexter. He's that Hispanic cop in Dexter that's so freaking awesome.
Angel.
Yeah, thank you. I could not remember his name, but yeah, that's David Zayas. Yeah, thank you, Batista. And I was sitting there racking my brain trying to remember who it was, like for 5 minutes. And I was on.
The goatee was gone, so
I was on Twitter going, "Who is that guy? I don't want to look it up. I want to try to remember." Yeah, that must be what it is. And it's been a couple of years. But I don't know, because for a minute there, he was reminding me of what's his name? The guy who directed Iron Man. And I was like, no, it's not.
Favreau?
No, it's not Favreau. Who is it? I got Favreau in my head, and I couldn't go anyplace else. And then the Balloonman was played by a character actor named Dan Beckedahl, who has been in all kinds of stuff. He was, I guess, a regular in Community, but he's also going to be in the new Hitman movie. So that's that guy. Let's go on to favorite line. Dan, what was your favorite line this time?
Oh, I didn't write one. See, it was going to be I said the favorite missed opportunity line was going to be my "Who are you?" on Balloonman, but I was afraid somebody was going to make that joke well before we even got to this point. So I didn't really have particularly a favorite line. I liked, like you guys said, the interaction between Balloonman and Gordon about the ideals and all that, but I didn't specifically have a favorite line. There was nothing that really leapt out at me like this week.
Steve?
I guess it's really that whole exchange between Gordon and Balloonman, but particularly at the end when he says, you know what kind of difference I made? None, because the people running the city feed off the weak and the law protects them.
Yeah. Yeah, when the law is the opposite of the law, then you don't have law, obviously. Yeah. My favorite serious line was, if people take the law into their own hands, there is no law. I want to start instituting, and we might not get one every time, but I'd like to start instituting here the "That's so Bullock" line. Because first episode, of course, we had what will infamously go down in history as
it will be on Captain Logan's tombstone.
Yeah, yes, shiny shoes, mother of God. We had a pretty good last week. This week, the best I could come up with for the "That's so Bullock" line was, and I really enjoyed this because it's kind of a double entendre. How does it feel to be hoisted by your own petard? That's good stuff. Let's go on to predictions and hopes. Do you guys have any predictions? Steve?
I kind of want... This is more of a hope, and I doubt they'd do this, but I think it'd be really cool if, by the end of the season, Bruce Wayne goes to another country, and we see, periodically, we check in with him, and he's doing different things under different people. Maybe not training so much as just learning, being a detective. because this kid's clearly got the mind working. He's really
when he's already.
reasoning.
And by the way, I don't think it's too early for him to go, I want to be a detective, I'm looking for clues. He has every reason to do that. I mean, one of the things that makes that work is that he knows that they don't have his parents' killer yet.
Yeah.
So he has a reason to go look for clues. Unless he's also looking for the Court of Owls. He could be doing that. We don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But anyway, I'm sorry, Steve.
No, I mean, that'd be really awesome if he was investigating the Court of Owls, because it's all about a conspiracy to kill important people in Gotham.
That's a good point. Yeah,
if he was doing that, or if he goes to like Europe or something and studies sciences or something, and it's just he's trying to broaden his horizon before he gets stronger. I think that'd be really cool.
I think it's more likely that if they do that, it won't be till like 2 or 3, because I think that there are a lot of characters they're going to want to introduce him to and give him relationships with before that happens.
Hopefully not too many, though, because I do like Batman first encountering a lot of these major characters in costume, but, that's just me.
Yeah, I think 23 episodes from now, you're going to look back and be like, well, forget that. Dan, any predictions or hopes?
I'd like to see, hope-wise, I'd like to see Mooney kind of get out and about a bit more. It just seems like most of the scenes she's had for at least the last 2 episodes has been in her and Falcone in the club, or her talking to one of her henchmen in the club, telling him to do something. I don't feel like a whole lot interesting is kind of going on her end. Obviously, she has the whole, her and Falcone power struggle thing happening, but I'd like to see her kind of go out a bit more. I just feel like they keep going back to the club every single time. It's kind of like the Montoya and Jackson. Is that her partner? Montoya and Alan. I feel like it's between the pilot episode and this episode, the same series of events happened where they confronted Jim about knowing something, and then Montoya went to Barbara again, and then Barbara confronted Jim about it at the end of towards the end of the episode. I felt like it's just like it's this weird kind of like little cycle that keeps happening between that and the whole Mooney Falcone thing, or Falcone. Yeah. No, I just hope to see her out and about doing a bit more menacing things outside of saying, take care of this person.
Yeah, and then sometimes just freaking out and yelling like a crazy person.
Yes.
Which never gets old.
I also thought it was weird that Montoya and Alan, there was also a same kind of repeat from the pilot episode where when they were talking to Penguin and he was giving them information, they're like, well, this seems to serve you pretty well. And he's like, no, I just feel like I should be telling you this. Same thing happened with Mooney and then this episode where it's like, well, maybe you're just trying to get back at Falcone. And she's like, well, but no. Like, it just seemed like the same kind of interaction. I don't know.
Dan, I feel the need to critique the 2 impressions we just got from you, and I think that your Penguin is like a 8.5. I mean, it's up there, but your Fish Mooney's like a 2, I think. I don't know.
I should be a lot more sultry when I do Fish Mooney.
Yeah, be a little more sultry, but occasionally just like suddenly violently freak out when nobody's expecting it. That's
okay. Gotcha. I'll keep that in mind.
You need to just act like you're like checking your phone and then just suddenly be like, ah! Yeah.
Great Scott!
Yes, Christopher Lloyd as Fish Mooney.
I'd love to see Christopher Lloyd on here. That'd be awesome.
Yes, that would be awesome. He would fit in just fine. He had a cameo in Sin City too, and we're not that far outside of that kind of noir territory here. Here's my big question, folks. We made a really big deal out of people not remembering or mispronouncing the girlfriend's name, or Falcone's new girlfriend's name. Is Falcone dating Talia al Ghul? Is that happening? Because he's got a girlfriend, and her name is Natalia, and they made a big freaking deal out of not letting us know really what it was until like the last 10 minutes of the episode.
Natalia?
Yeah, it was Natalia. What is that about? Are they just teasing us, or is that going to be a thing?
I really hope not.
Well, yeah, because of course, Talia needs to be something a little bit closer to Bruce Wayne's age, unless of course she's in Lazarus Pits and she's actually 150 years old. We could do that, but
I mean, we could. If it was Talia's sister who was born during World War II, I'm totally cool with that. I just don't want it to be Talia because I'm a big fan of the Talia-Bruce relationship.
Oh no, I know you are, but
I think I know where this is going.
You can't. No, okay, yes, Dan.
So he's dating Talia al Ghul. He's gonna go Ra's al Ghul is going to make him the head of the League of Shadows, and this ties into the name being pronounced wrong. He's going to become the Falcone, like the Falcon, but Falcone, because there's no Falcone. So he's going to be a superhero destroying Gotham. I think this is going to work out. I think this is how it's playing out.
I think he should call himself the Maltese Falcone.
The Maltese Falcone.
The Maltese Falcone. Yeah.
Go back straight to the origins of noir. That'd be perfect.
Yeah. It all fits. Look at that. We just went full circle with that. That'd be fantastic. You can't tell me that they didn't think that fans would lose their minds with that name reveal. That had to have been on purpose.
I don't know.
Unless I heard it wrong,
like
but I'm pretty sure they said Natalia. But Dan, why would you have a scene where everybody's like, is it like Nadia or what is, I don't know what it is, and then like 20 minutes later, oh, it's Natalia. Like, that strikes me as a giant name reveal, kind of like the end of the first episode of Arrow, where they're like, Dinah Laurel Lance. Ah! I felt like that with this.
Steve looks in awe. He's just like.
They would not have done
something, but I don't want you to be.
But it could be that they did it just to make people like me go, wait, what are you doing? And then, of course, they're not actually going to do that. Like, they might just be playing with us. I don't know, but...
Yeah. Well, if they're going by the Arrow school of thought, then they'll do something with it, because Arrow does something with everyone.
Everyone, yeah. And if somebody has a first name you've heard of, they're probably that guy right there.
Speaking of name reveals, I felt like I wasn't sure if this was a reference to the comics or anything, but when during the news report where the old lady is saying, "Yeah, I hope he takes out my landlord. His name is something," and then it cuts off. I figured it was maybe a reference to something, but I didn't get if it was a reference or not.
I didn't catch it. I'm not sure.
Because she says his first name and then starts to say his last name, and then he turns. I think somebody turns it off. I think it was the detective lady or the head of the precinct lady, but I figured that might have been a reference. Wasn't sure if you guys caught on to it or not.
I guess then that would be like a reference inside of a reference, because when we had the old lady talking about her landlord, I just went Dark Knight Returns, but I didn't catch the name enough to tell if it was someone's name or not.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
His name was Vixie! Yeah. We got a. Was this the first time that the Maltese Falcone has been? Was this the first time that he's been referred to as the Roman?
I think so.
Because we did get the Roman this time, and the way it's dropped, Fish Mooney just kind of randomly says the Roman out of context. Anybody that's not familiar with Batman will probably not know who she's talking about, because nobody has called him that yet in the show that I caught.
I didn't even catch her referring to him as that, but like I already because I've read enough Batman comics to know that he's referred to as the Roman, so yeah. I didn't even catch it.
Let's go on now to trivia questions, and my trivia question, as happened a couple weeks ago, was already kind of given away by Dan this time. So because I just didn't think that anybody would bring up that character's name, and then he did. So first of all, let me mention that we did have somebody answer my question last time, although I don't think I got anything from Steve's, and if I did and I didn't write it down, I apologize, but I don't think I ever saw anything. But my question from last time was, how far away from the city was Penguin when he got picked up in that truck? And it was 9 miles. That the sign said Gotham City, 9 miles. It was very 66 Batman. I love that. And the Hellish Smile got that right first. So congratulations to you. And I wanted to mention real quick what my question was this time, because I'm going to tell you what the answer is, but I thought it was just super cool if I'm right about it. Dan, the answer to my question was going to be Lieutenant Cranston, and you already said his name. But the reason I did a question on him was because I think he was named that solely because, maybe I'm reaching, but solely because in the scene where the Balloonman is trying to kill him, the Balloonman looks suspiciously like the Shadow.
And his last name is Lamond. So Lamond kills Cranston dressed as the Shadow.
He dresses the Shadow, exactly. Yeah. Isn't that great? I just thought that was hilarious. He had the hat and he had the mask, and when Cranston's name came up, I went, no way, really, Okay. So anyway, that was my question. And Steve, what was your question from last time? What was the answer?
All right, last week my question was, when Selena Kyle has a daughter following the 1 year later storyline, she gives up being Catwoman temporarily and takes on a new name to raise her daughter. And the name that she picked was Irene Dubrovna, which is a character from the Cat People.
The Cat People. Okay, wow, that's obscure.
Yeah, she references that movie within the story, and she doesn't stick to that very long, but it happens, so...
Cool. What is your question for this time, Steve? For this week, for this time. English.
I'm debating between an easy one and a hard one. I think I'll go with the hard one. When Sal Maroni first appears in the comics, and he disfigures Two-Face, what was the name of his actual target?
Ooh, good one. Dan, do you have a question for us?
I think I had a joke question the first episode. I can't even... no. You know... The character, the first guy to be taken up by the balloon, his name was like Dan something. I thought that was funny. It just kept me thinking of my like online name, Dan's.
Dan's just imagining himself being hoisted by his own petard.
Yeah, no, I don't have a question.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, everybody, thanks always for watching. Sure hope you enjoyed our discussion. Dan, thanks for being with us. Steve, thank you for being with us. And if you think you know the answer to Steve's trivia question, feel free to send me a personal message on Geekvolution on YouTube, or go to geekvolution.com, go to the contact section, and send me that, and whoever gets it right first, I will mention in next week's episode. Next week, guys, Arkham. Can't wait to see what they're doing with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yay.
Exciting.
We'll see you next time. I'm Captain Logan. This was Steve Baxi.
Hi.
And this was DanzNewz.
Bye.